Hello, everybody! Today I'd like to go more in depth on the topic of garden pests. I'm going to break this up into 2 episodes, one on animals and one on bugs. This way, my podcasts don't get too long. I'll start by talking about pets. While we don't normally see pets as pests, they can cause damage to your garden. The best way to prevent your animals from damaging your garden is to train them well. You can train them to stay in the walkways you have for yourself and your equipment, or you can train them to stay out of the garden area entirely. You can also plant a patch of catnip away from your garden to lure cats elsewhere. To protect your newly turned soil and the sprouts you plant there, you can lay down thorny branches, a prickly mat, which you can buy online, or you can stick popsicle sticks into the ground close together. This will prevent dogs and cats from walking on it or using it as a litter box. There are also specially formulated sprays to repel dogs and cats. These are made to spray directly on your plants, but I believe they are meant to protect ornamental plants, not edible plants, so I wouldn't spray them on your food. The last option is to put a sturdy fence or a cage staked down around your garden. Next, let's talk about deer. These tips can help with deer, antelope, moose, elk, and other ungulates. While deer will eat almost anything if they are hungry enough, they don't like succulents, pungent flavored plants, or plants that have hairy or furry leaves. You can plant these where you notice heavy deer traffic. You can also sprinkle human hair clippings around your garden almost every day. It needs to be nearly daily because the scent will wear off over time, and that's what keeps the deer at bay. If you have a dog that needs brushed every day, you can use that hair as well. Blood meal poured around your garden will fertilize it as well as keep deer away, although it may attract other pests. You can also use rotten eggs, though the smell might keep you away from your garden as well. Then there's repellents made from garlic, hot peppers, or citrus that you could spray around your garden. Another option is purchasing predator urine and sprinkling that around your garden once a week. A dog will also mark their territory around your garden, warding off deer because it is a predator. Deer can also be scared away by motion sensing devices with lights or loud music. Lastly, you could use deer fencing. Depending on where you live, you may have to worry about bears. The best way to keep bears away is to not attract them in the first place. Only feed birds when bears are in hibernation, usually from December to March. It doesn't matter how high up you put the bird feeder, it will still attract a bear. Feed your pets indoors. Clean up all food scraps after picnics or outdoor parties. Even old soda cans can attract a bear. Harvest any of your fruits and vegetables as soon as they are ripe and tidy up any fallen fruit from trees and bushes. Store all of your garbage or recycling in a shed or garage. Keeping it covered will not be enough. Frequently clean barbecue grills and store them indoors. Keep your compost pile as far from your house and garden as possible. You can also avoid adding fish, meat, fat, oils, unrinsed eggshells, or cooked food to your compost pile. Keep any chickens you own in a secure building at night. If you already have a bear problem, you can try electric fencing, though it doesn't always work. You can also use motion sensing equipment with loud music and/or flashing lights. Now we come to smaller creatures. Let's start with birds, just because I love to do things alphabetically. A lot of the time birds are helpful in that they eat pests. Other times birds will eat your crops, then they are not so helpful. One thing you can do is use a scare device. These will scare birds away for a couple of days, but birds are smart and will realize there's nothing to be afraid of after a couple of days. Some scare devices are aluminum pie pans, tin can lids, or just foil pieces hung in your bushes or trees so that they will spin in the wind. Crude replicas of predators, including a person, also known as a scarecrow, reflective tape, or balloons with big eyes drawn on them to replicate the big eyes of predator birds. The best solution, though, is exclusion. This can be in the form of bird netting over your trees and bushes a few weeks before the fruit matures, paper bags over corn cobs and sunflower heads before they fully mature, and laying garden fabric over seedlings until they mature, so birds won't pluck those out of the soil. Next up is gophers. Gophers are really hard to get rid of once they've established a tunnel system, so as soon as you see gopher activity, you need to act quickly. A sign of gopher activity is mounds of dirt with no hole, as opposed to molehills that have a rounded hole that is obvious. To get rid of gophers, you want to dig into that mound until you find the hole, then throw in either used cat litter or a rag soaked in predator urine or pine oil. You can also bury a fine wire mesh beneath your garden, though if you want to have a large garden, this is impractical. Things that don't really work are ultrasonic noise machines. They provide only temporary relief. Growing gopher spurge or growing castor beans. Both of these exude poison from their roots, but the gophers just learn to avoid those plants. I might note that a good cat or dog will catch and kill these vermin before they take a hold on your garden space. On to mice and voles. Voles are also known as field mice. Eradicating these small rodents is not really an option. There will always be more in the wild. If you don't want mice in your house, you should seal all possible entryways and keep your pet food in metal bins with lids securely on. If they do get into your house, there's lots of types of traps and poisons to choose from, each with their own ups and downsides. While live traps tend not to work since the mice want to be home, so they come right back. Poison can also be cruel, and it could get into your pets or children, so that's also a risk. A cat can be a useful deterrent for mice both in and outdoors, though cats can be very cruel. To deter them from your garden, clean up any plant debris that they could nest in. Since mice and voles also eat bark off young trees, you can wrap the trunks with hardware cloth a couple inches below the soil surface and at least a foot above the soil surface. You can also add crushed oyster shells or finely crushed gravel to your soil when tilling it to deter small rodent tunneling. Castor oil spray and predator urine also deters voles. Sprinkling chili powder around the outside of your garden or planting mint on the outside of your garden can deter mice because of their harsh smells. Okay, now we move on to moles. As I said previously, you'll know you have moles if there is a mound of dirt with a small hole in it. To try to prevent moles from coming in the first place, you should try to control the amount of grubs in your garden area. You could collect them regularly and either eat them yourself after cooking them, or feed them live to your chickens. In order to collect them, you have to get them to the surface. You can use a mixture of soap, lemon juice, and water and spray it onto the ground around your plants. This will irritate the grubs and they will wriggle to the surface of the soil. I will get more into ways to get rid of grubs in my next podcast. A way to get rid of a mole once you have one is to throw human hair or a noisemaker into the hole they made. You could also spray your garden with castor oil spray to repel moles. One good thing is that moles rarely stay in one place for long, so if you simply wait, it will go away on its own. Possums are another nuisance you may find evidence of in your garden. They usually come in the night and go for tomatoes, melons, and corn. They also tend to climb fruit trees and eat the fruit. In order not to attract a possum, you should keep your food and water sources secure, and try to keep grubs out of your garden space. You can also repel a possum with a spray made of water, soap, hot sauce, or crushed hot peppers. Scare tactics also work, such as a scarecrow, motion sensing lights, motion sensing noisemakers, and motion sensing sprinklers. You can put a baffle around your trees to prevent possums from climbing them. A baffle looks like a cone you'd put on a dog to keep it from chewing itself. Also, having a dog that stays outside at night would deter possums. Almost every gardener has issues with rabbits. Rabbits breed like, well, rabbits. So to put it simply, trying to eradicate them is nearly futile. Learning to live with rabbits is the best most can do. Rabbits love alfalfa and clover, so if you have room, you could grow a patch of one of these, and the rabbits will usually go for that instead of your crops. Young seedlings are also a favorite treat of rabbits, so protecting your crops early on is an important way to keep your crops. Rabbits also particularly like peas and beans, so you will want to cover your seedlings and legumes with a hoop cloth construction. You can also build a fence with very small holes or no holes at all that goes about 6 inches deep and 2 feet tall. Then there are many store-bought repellents, but you can use garlic or fish emulsion as repellents. No repellents will work if a rabbit is starving. Raccoons have become more of a problem in populated areas than they once were. To discourage raccoons from visiting, you should keep all food and water supplies secure and cut down on the number of grubs in your garden area. You can also sprinkle baby powder or blood meal on your vegetables to prevent them from being eaten by raccoons, though you will have to wash the vegetables well before you consume them. You can also cover your crops with taped paper bags. Scare tactics will work temporarily on raccoons, but they will come back again and again, despite the scare tactics. Here again, you can put baffles on your trees. You could also build a strong fence around your garden space. Again, you could also just keep a dog outside. Skunks can not only be a nuisance in your garden, but also in your everyday life. No one wants to be sprayed by a skunk. In order not to lure a skunk to your property, try to keep all food and water sources secure, as well as lowering the amount of grubs around. You can use hot pepper spray to deter them once they are around by spraying it directly on your plants. Again, you will need to wash them thoroughly before you eat them. Skunks are also frightened of bright lights, so setting up motion sensing lights may help. If you know where a skunk is living, you can toss in predator urine or ammonia-soaked rag into their den. A dog might be a good idea here, but it may get sprayed. If you or a dog gets sprayed, bathe them or yourself in tomato juice or sauce. If you don't have access to tomato juice or sauce, use 1 quart of 3% hydrogen peroxide, 1/4 cup of baking soda, and a teaspoon of soap. Now we come to woodchucks. Woodchucks' main goal is to eat as much as possible and store it as fat to survive hibernation. This means that if they stake out your garden, they will eat as much as they can as fast as they can. To not attract a woodchuck in the first place, try to clear brush piles, old stumps, and wood piles. Pull-up covers tend to work well to prevent woodchucks from getting to your crops. You can also plant clover or alfalfa elsewhere to lure woodchucks away from your garden. Repellents such as dried blood, predator urine, and talcum powder sprinkled onto your plants will keep woodchucks from feeding on them. But again, you will have to wash your produce thoroughly before eating it. And again, I will say, you could also just get a dog. In conclusion, it is a good idea to keep all of your food and water supplies secured. Keep populations of grubs down. Put up fencing. And for the last time, I will say, you should get a dog. I hope this information is helpful. That's all I have on animal pests. Join me next week to learn about bug pests. If you would like a PDF copy of my book or just have questions, email me at nuttatielloguides@gmail.com. That's nuttatiellogguides@gmail.com. Continuing our journey to self-sufficiency, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.